Is this really how Earthlings reproduce? I never thought it was possible. Can I experience it myself? It had been months since the alien first arrived on Earth, and in all that time, the creature had seen and learned much about the strange world it had landed on. Yet, nothing fascinated it more than one peculiar aspect of human life. It had heard about it before, in passing conversations and strange images, but it never truly understood how Earthlings, these fragile creatures, could create new life. The process was called reproduction, but what did that really mean? Could it really be as simple as people said? In its travels across galaxies, the alien had encountered many species, but none of them reproduced the way humans did. The concept of creation was unique to every world. On its home planet, for example, life was created through energy exchanges and bonding through the elements. This was a way to sustain existence without the complexities of physical birth. But Earthlings, humans, seemed to do something altogether different. They created new beings through a process that combined biology with emotions, something that was hard for the alien to grasp. Curiosity gnawed at it. How could this strange, seemingly fragile species perform such a complex and intimate act of creation? The alien set out to uncover the truth. It began by observing Earthlings closely. People seemed to talk about reproduction freely, though often with a sense of humor or embarrassment. The alien couldn't understand why it was such a big deal, yet so casual at the same time. Sometimes it would overhear humans in casual conversations, laughing nervously as they discuss relationships, love, and the act of reproduction. But it wasn't the casual chatter that intrigued the alien. It was the underlying mystery, the bond that connected two beings in such a personal way. After weeks of watching, the alien decided it needed more answers. It couldn't rely on overhearing conversation any longer. It needed to understand. So it began seeking out people who seemed open to explaining the process. It wasn't easy at first. The alien's strange appearance often frightened humans, and it had to work hard to earn their trust. But eventually, it found a scientist, a human who had studied the biology of reproduction in great detail. The scientist, a middle aged man with kind eyes and a patient smile, agreed to meet with the alien. He had never encountered an alien before, but he was intrigued by the idea of explaining something so personal to a being from another world. He explained the biological aspects of reproduction, starting with the human body and how the reproductive system worked. The alien listened carefully, fascinated by the complexity of the process. It was unlike anything it had ever heard of. Yet the alien couldn't help but feel something was missing. The scientist spoke about sperm and eggs, about chromosomes and fertilization, but there was more to it than just biology. The alien needed to know about the emotions involved, the feeling that humans had when they decided to create new life. The scientist told the alien that humans did not just reproduce out of necessity, they did it out of love, affection, and desire to build something together. The alien was still confused. It couldn't understand how love and emotion could be so tightly woven into the act of creating life. To it, emotions were not a factor in creation, they were simply a byproduct of existence. But for humans, it seemed emotions were central to everything, especially reproduction. I never thought it was possible, the alien mused, its voice soft. Is this really how Earthlings reproduce? Can it really be as simple as this? Or is there something more? The scientist smiled gently, sensing the alien's curiosity. There's always more to it than just biology, he said. Humans are not just bodies, they are hearts and minds too. Reproduction is not just about creating life, it's about creating something meaningful together. It wasn't sure if it fully understood, but it now knew that reproduction was something deeply connected to the human experience. It wasn't just about survival, it was about connection, about something much deeper. The aliens' understanding of human reproduction had only begun to scratch the surface. It was intrigued but still unsure about how such a complex process could be so natural for Earthlings. The scientist had explained the biology, but the alien needed to go further. It needed to know how humans truly felt about reproduction, not just the mechanics. So the alien returned to the scientist, seeking deeper insight. Is there more I need to understand? The alien asked, its voice curious and full of wonder. I understand the body's part, but what about the mind? What drives a human to reproduce? The scientist, now more comfortable with the alien's questions, nodded thoughtfully. Is a complicated process, but I'll try to explain it in a way that makes sense. He leaned forward, eyes alight with the joy of teaching. Reproduction, as you've learned, involves a lot of physical elements, but there's also an emotional aspect that can't be ignored. The alien tilted its head, listening intently. Emotion.
Yes, the scientist said.
Humans don't just reproduce to survive, there's love involved, intimacy. The connection between two people, the feelings they share, make the process meaningful. For many, it's a way of creating bonds, of growing closer. Humans often form relationships based on affection, and reproduction is one of the ways they strengthen that bond. But what does it feel like? The alien asked, clearly puzzled. Is it like the bonding you spoke of earlier? Is that how humans connect? Yes, in a way, humans form emotional connections that can lead to a desire for closeness. Physically, yes, but also emotionally. And when two people decide to reproduce, they are choosing to create life together. It's an act of trust, of sharing something very intimate. The alien thought for a moment. It was still having difficulty understanding the connection between the physical act and the emotional one. On its home planet, bonding was a mental exchange, a transfer of energy that required no physical contact. But here on Earth, humans seemed to believe that their bodies, their emotions, and their desire were all part of the same experience. As the alien pondered this, the scientist continued to explain the concept of human relationships. Humans are social creatures. They seek connection with others, and reproduction is one way of deepening that connection. But it's also about the future, about leaving something behind. Many humans reproduce because they want to pass on their legacy, their values, and their knowledge. It had never considered the idea that reproduction could be so deeply tied to legacy. To it, life was about survival, not necessarily about passing on a legacy. But here, Earthlings saw it as a way to continue their story, to ensure that something of themselves would live on. The scientist paused, letting the alien absorb what he had just said. Of course, not everyone feels the same way, he added. Some humans choose not to have children at all. There are many reasons for this, but it doesn't make their lives any less meaningful. Reproduction is a personal choice, and every human is different. The alien absorbed these words quietly, trying to understand the full range of human motivations. Reproduction wasn't just about the act itself, it was about love, legacy, trust, and connection. The more the alien learned, the more it realized how complex the human experience was. It wasn't just about biology, it was about everything that made Earthlings who they were. Days following the aliens' conversation with the scientist were filled with reflection and contemplation. Though the alien had learned much about the complex emotional and physical aspect of reproduction, it still felt uncertain about one thing. Could it truly understand the full human experience without participating in it? Curiosity had been gnawing at the alien for days now, urging it to take the next step. It was one thing to observe and listen to humans explain their life, but to fully grasp the depths of what it meant to be human, The alien realized it needed to experience this act for itself. After all, humans weren't just beings who reproduced, they were beings who formed deep emotional connections. Reproduction wasn't simply an action, it was a bond, a choice, and an experience that involved both the mind and the heart. The alien could hardly ignore the temptation to understand firsthand. It had already gathered so much knowledge from the scientists and from observing Earthlings in their everyday lives. Still, something felt missing. Was it enough to simply know the science behind the process, or did the alien need to experience the emotions, the connection, the vulnerability that accompanied it? The question lingered in the alien's mind as it wandered the earth seeking a deeper understanding. It knew that asking the scientist for further insight might help clarify its thoughts. But deep down, the alien had already made up its mind. It wanted to experience what it had learned, to truly feel what humans felt in that intimate act of creation. Over the next few days, the alien searched for a willing participant. It didn't want to offend anyone or create awkward situations, so it was cautious. It sought someone who might be able to offer insight into the act of reproduction, someone who might be willing to share the experience in a way that was respectful and meaningful. This was not about mere curiosity, it was about learning, about growing as a being, and about forging an understanding of humans from a perspective that was as close to theirs as possible. Finally, the alien found someone, a human who was open minded and understanding. The person had heard about the alien's quest for knowledge and was intrigued by the opportunity to help. They agreed to participate, explaining that their willingness wasn't just about the act itself, but about the deeper connection that humans formed in these moments. They were patient with the alien, explaining more about the emotions, the trust, and the connection involved in human relationships. As the day of the experience approached, the alien felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. It was one thing to study and learn about humans, but it was something entirely different to step into their shoes, to experience the emotional and physical connection that made reproduction so much more than a biological process. This decision was a huge leap, and the alien wasn't sure how it would feel afterward. Would it understand more about humans, or would it feel overwhelmed and confused? The alien had no way of knowing, but it was determined to find out. It had come so far in its journey learning about the depth of human emotions and desires. Now it was ready to take the final step. As it prepared for the experience, the alien reflected on all that it had learned. Humans were not just biological creatures, they were beings who sought connection, meaning, and love. Reproduction wasn't just about creating life, it was about sharing something deeply personal with another being, and for the alien, that was something it couldn't fully grasp until it experienced it firsthand. The day had finally arrived, and the alien stood in the quiet of the room, unsure of what would come next. The human who had agreed to participate was calm and reassuring, their presence comforting. They spoke softly, explaining that while this might be an unfamiliar experience for the alien, it was one that many humans had gone through in their lives, each experience unique yet all equally powerful. The alien felt the weight of the moment. This wasn't just about learning the science or mechanics of human reproduction. It was about feeling what humans felt. The alien wanted to understand the depth of connection that humans experienced. It wasn't simply about biology, it was about emotion, trust, and the bond formed between two people. It was about the vulnerability that came with opening oneself to another person. The human smiled kindly at the alien, sensing its unease. Take your time, they said. There are no rush. This is about us, about connecting. It had never been in such a vulnerable position before. It had traveled across countless planets, seen entire civilizations rise and fall, but nothing had prepared it for the rawness of human connection. This was something entirely different. Slowly, the alien allowed itself to relax, feeling a warmth begin to grow between itself and the human. The connection wasn't immediate, it didn't happen in a flash. It was a slow, steady build, a quiet understanding that began with a simple touch and grew into something deeper. The alien had learned from its previous conversations that humans didn't simply rush into reproduction. It wasn't just a mechanical process. Humans took their time, they shared their thoughts and feelings, and they trusted each other. As the experience unfolded, the alien felt something it had never felt before, a sense of closeness, of trust, of emotional connection. It was no longer just observing, it was part of something real and human. The act of reproduction became secondary to the bond that formed between the two beings. The alien had come to realize that this was what truly made human reproduction special. It wasn't about the physical act, it was about the connection and the emotions that were shared. For the alien, this was a revelation. In all of its travels across the universe, it had never experienced anything quite like this. The way humans interpret their emotions with their biology, the way they trusted each other so completely, it was something profound. As the experience came to an end, the alien felt a sense of peace, of understanding. It wasn't just a spectator anymore, it was a participant in the story of human life. When it was over, the alien and the human lay side by side in silence, both of them contemplating the experience. The alien was still processing everything it had learned, everything it had felt. The human too was quiet, but there was a sense of satisfaction in the air, a quiet understanding that what had just occurred was a deeply personal, meaningful experience for both of them. The alien turned to the human and spoke softly. I think I understand now. It said, reproduction isn't just about creating life, it's about the connection we share, the trust, and the love. It's about something much deeper than just biology. Bid. The human smiled gently, nodding. It's about love, about trust. That's what makes it so special. The alien lay back, gazing up at the ceiling. It didn't have all the answers yet, but it had taken an important step in understanding humanity. The experience had been more than just learning about reproduction. It had been a lesson in what it meant to truly connect with another being. As the alien left the room later that day, it felt different. It felt as though it had just unlocked a piece of the human experience that it had never known before. There was a new appreciation for Earthlings now, a deeper understanding of their desires, their relationships, and their unique way of connecting with one another. The alien knew that it would never look at humans the same way again. It had seen them not as biological beings but as creatures capable of great emotional depth and connection. The days that followed the experience left the alien with a sense of quiet contemplation. Its mind raced with thoughts, processing everything that had happened. For so long, the alien had studied Earth from a distance, observing and collecting data. It had come to understand the mechanics of human life, but now, after its own personal experience, the alien knew it had only begun to scratch the surface of what it meant to be human. After leaving the human's home, the alien wandered through the streets, unsure of what to feel. The world around it seemed both familiar and foreign at the same time. The sights, sounds, and even the air felt different. It had learned so much in the past few days, but what stood out the most was how deeply the alien had connected to another being, even if just for a brief moment. Humans were not just creatures of biology, they were emotional, vulnerable, and capable of immense depth. It hadn't been just the physical act that had impacted the alien, it was the emotions that flowed through it, the sense of vulnerability, trust, and connection. It had never thought of life in such terms. On its home planet, everything was logical, methodical. There was no room for love, no need for emotional bonds to create life. Life was something that existed, sustained by energy and nothing more. But here on Earth, it was different. Humans needed love, they needed connection, and through that connection, they created life. The alien sat down in a quiet park, feeling the cool breeze on its skin. It closed its eyes and reflected on everything it had learned. For the first time, it truly understood what it meant to be human. It was not just about survival, it was about the relationships humans built, the love they gave and received, and the trust that connected them. That was what made their lives meaningful. The alien thought back to the scientist it had spoken with earlier. The scientist had explained that reproduction was not just a physical act, it was something much deeper. It was an emotional bond that humans shared with one another, a shared experience of trust, intimacy, and connection. It was about creating something together, building a family, and leaving a legacy. The alien had been skeptical at first, but now it understood what the scientist had said was true. Reproduction was not just about biology, it was about sharing a piece of yourself with another person, building a future together. The alien had felt that bond, that connection firsthand, but there was still so much more to learn. The alien had only begun to understand the depth of human emotion, and it was eager to learn more. It knew that the experience it had shared with the human was just one part of the human experience. There were so many different ways people connected with each other, so many different kinds of relationships. The alien stood up and began to walk, its thoughts swirling. It had questions, so many questions. How did humans experience love in different forms? How did they navigate the challenges of relationships? Warm. What made them choose to form families, to create life in such a personal and intimate way? The alien wanted to know more, to dive deeper into the human experience. But as it walked through the streets, something unexpected happened. The alien saw a couple sitting on a bench, laughing together. Their hands were intertwined and their faces were filled with joy. It wasn't just their laughter that caught the alien's attention, it was the way they looked at each other. There was something in their eyes, something that spoke of a shared history, of a bond built over time. The alien realized that the connection they shared wasn't just about the future, it was also about the present, the joy of being with someone in the here and now. The alien smiled to itself, feeling a sense of warmth. For the first time, it understood why humans valued relationships so much. It wasn't just about reproduction or legacy, it was about companionship, about the joy of sharing life with someone else. As the days passed, the alien continued to reflect on its experience. It began to see humans not just as creatures of biology, but as beings who experience the world in a deeply emotional and connected way. The alien realized that what made humans unique wasn't just their ability to reproduce, it was their capacity to love, to form connections, and to create bonds that lasted beyond the physical. The alien also understood that these connections were not always easy. Love, trust, and intimacy required effort, understanding, and patience. There were times when things went wrong, when relationships were tested, but even in those moments, humans continued to seek connection. They were willing to risk vulnerability to put themselves out there because they understood that true connection was worth it. In the quiet moments of reflection, the alien thought about its own world. On its home planet, there was no need for emotional connection in the way humans experienced it. Life was created through energy, and beings lived without the complexity of love and trust. But now the alien saw the beauty in the human experience. It was messy, complicated, and sometimes painful, but it was also filled with depth, meaning, and connection. As the alien prepared to leave Earth, it felt a sense of gratitude. It had come to this world with question, but it was living with answers. The alien had learned that human reproduction wasn't just about creating life, it was about the connection that formed between two people, the trust and love that made the experience meaningful. It was about the bond that went beyond biology and into the heart of what it meant to be human. The alien looked up at the sky, feeling the weight of everything it had learned. It had come to Earth seeking understanding, and it had found something far greater than it had ever imagined. It had found the beauty of human connection, the depth of love, and the power of trust. It knew that it would carry these lessons with it wherever it went. As the alien boarded its ship and looked back at the earth, it realized that it had gained something far more valuable than knowledge. It had gained an understanding of what it meant to be truly alive, to experience connection and love in a way that transcended biology. It had seen the heart of humanity, and it was more than it had ever expected. With a final glance at the planet, the alien set course for home, carrying with it the memories of its time on Earth and the profound lessons it had learned. It knew that no matter where it went, it would never forget the beauty of human connection and the way that love could shape the very essence of life.